The history of medicine in India spans a period of several thousand years, definitely dating back to a few centuries before the Common Era. It is an amazing fact that even so early, Sanskrit texts were composed dealing exclusively with specialties like pediatrics, surgery, ophthalmology, ENT, and so on. In these texts, Ayurveda is already seen in a developed form, specialized into 8 branches: general medicine, surgery, ophthalmology, ENT and dentistry, pediatrics, psychiatry, toxicology, rejuvenative medicine, and reproductive medicine. Around the 6th or 7th century CE, the renowned physician Vagabhata compiled the specialized knowledge of the 8 branches of Ayurveda into one compendium. The larger version is known as Ashtang Sangraha and the shorter version is called Ashtang Hridaya. The practice of medicine in Ayurveda is based on the principle that there is no substance in the world that does not potentially have medicinal property. This represents a continuous and an unfinished quest for discovering new medicine from natural resources. In the Charak Samhita, one comes across the earliest reference to the genetic basis of diseases. Charaka points out that the reproductive element is composed of seeds which are further divided into parts and subparts. Each part or subpart of a seed represents a particular organ of the body, and damage to that part can damage the organ. There are references to microbial life in textbooks of medicine dating back to several centuries before the Common Era. Lower life forms were classified into pathogenic and non-pathogenic. The pathogenic organisms included microbes that could be seen with the naked eye. How those physicians were able to provide such descriptions or even conceive of microbes centuries before microscopes were invented still remains a mystery. Sushruta Samhita describes communicable diseases and explains that diseases can be transmitted from one person to the other by close contact, through air, sharing of clothes, sleeping together, and so on. Fumigation has been mentioned as a measure to prevent infectious diseases from spreading. Charak Samhita devotes an entire chapter to epidemiology and prescribes methods to prevent epidemics as well as manage the outbreak of epidemics. In the 18th century, British officials and travelers observed and documented the practice of inoculations for smallpox, which was in vogue in India centuries before vaccination was discovered by Edward Jenner. In an account written for London's College of Physicians, J.Z. Holwell, who studied and himself practiced the Indian method of inoculation, testified to its great effectiveness in preventing the occurrence of smallpox. The tradition of surgery in Ayurveda has a long history. Physicians in ancient India had developed technology to drill teeth and remove decay 8,000 to 9,000 years ago. Evidence has also been unearthed from Harappa and Lothal, revealing an ancient surgical practice on a Bronze Age skull dating back to nearly 4,300 years ago. Trepanation, a common means of surgery practiced in prehistoric societies starting with the Stone Age, involved drilling or cutting through the skull vault, often to treat head injury or to remove bone splinters or blood clots caused by a blow to the head. The saga of Indian surgery reached its acme in the time of Sushruta, who is believed to have lived in the 2nd century BCE. Sushruta advocated a thorough study of anatomy by dissecting the dead body and is now revered as the father of surgery. He introduced the method of sterilizing surgical instruments to prevent sepsis after surgical procedures. The Compendium of Sushruta describes hundreds of sharp and blunt surgical instruments, and many of them resemble those used by surgeons today. Sushruta is recognized for having developed innovative surgical procedures like reconstruction of nose or rhinoplasty through plastic surgery, use of specific species of ants as dissolvable sutures to close the intestines, surgical removal of cataract, and surgical management of urinary calculi. The Indian rhinoplasty technique was rediscovered by Western medicine in the 18th century when the East India Company surgeons Thomas Crusoe and James Findlay witnessed the Indian rhinoplasty procedures at the British Residency in Pune. The history of Ayurveda reveals the evolution of a vibrant and dynamic medical tradition being composed at important chronological and geographical landmarks. This tradition of constant updating and documentation of medical knowledge continued without a break right up to the colonial period. In the 19th century, Ayurveda suffered a setback when unfavorable policies and regulations were enforced by the colonial rulers. However, with the publication of the main Ayurvedic texts, a revival set in around the turn of the 20th century, with a few leading Indian scholars coming out in defense of the discipline. Ayurveda also benefited from cross-cultural interactions and spread out of India into neighboring countries like China, Sri Lanka, Tibet, Thailand, and Indonesia. Buddhism played a major role in the spread of Ayurveda outside India. Important textbooks of Ayurveda like Charak Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, and Ashtanga Hridaya were translated into Tibetan, Persian, and Arabic languages in the Middle Ages. In the post-independence period, Ayurveda's resurgence continued, and in recent years, it has been gaining prominence as a whole system approach to healthcare. Ayurveda continues to manage a wide range of conditions effectively, like chronic degenerative diseases and lifestyle disorders, and is being sought after by people around the globe. Ayurveda has nurtured a pluralistic approach to healthcare in India. Today, India is perhaps the only country in the world that officially recognizes a pluralistic healthcare system, patronizing medical systems like Ayurveda, Yoga and Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, and Homeopathy. Today, Ayurveda is being taught and practiced in many countries like Germany, Italy, United Kingdom, Austria, Netherlands, and so on. There are many schools of Ayurveda in the United States. As the world is moving towards an integrative approach to healthcare, Ayurveda continues to inspire visions of healing that are holistic, pluralistic, and integrative at the same time through a tradition that has exhibited remarkable continuity, resilience, and adaptiveness to the vicissitudes of time.